Hi, so good morning. Back from Bolivia.
Yeah.
We do a quick market
Survived.
report, just on a few general topics before we after we got back.
Yeah.
So we can maybe start with it was quite a different time to go, wasn't it? It was towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Normally it's at the start. Was there a particular reason behind that, or?
So normally we make our annual trip to Bolivia sort of in the new crop season, so around about February, March. But this year we went out sort of later in the year, and the main purpose of the trip was to firstly just evaluate current market conditions, find out what was going on, and the second reason was to see sort of the situation with the factories, how they were developing, and look at sort of the overall standards of the factories, because externally what we've seen, not just in Brazil nuts but all commodities really, that the external market is demanding more and more when it comes to overall quality standard of the factories and general improvements of quality of product. So it was good to see that many factories have been making investments into their plants. They're developing more and more in terms of general sort of increase in good manufacturing practices, overall food safety topics. So that was quite refreshing to see that they're trying to sort of adapt to external demands. And we sort of spend quite a lot of time, we meet all the suppliers and we look at sort of what are the risks associated with Brazil nuts, how can we improve overall quality. We do a lot of work on taste issues, which is quite a reoccurring theme, and just sort of looking at the risks and how we can reduce those risks.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of our customers are kind of looking at those three magic letters, the BRC.
Yeah.
Does it seem like that kind of message is being passed forward?
It is actually. I was quite surprised to hear that quite a lot of the factories out there in Bolivia are now aware of what BRC stands for. They can access the BRC norms and they can start trying to work as a long-term plan towards implementing that in the factory. So it was good to see that they're sort of adapting external requirements.
Exactly, yeah. The $1 million question, I guess, is the market, or the $100 question, depending on margins, of course. But how did you get a good indication of what was happening there? Or?
Yeah, so this time of year is normally, it's a good time to try and assess if there's going to be any carryover.
Yeah.
And normally we would have a carryover from one crop to the next, and that carryover tends to take care of, it soaks up any demand during the first quarter of each year. So January, February, March, demand is soaked up from carryover. And before we went, we felt that the market, if you remember, during the summer months was quite slow, very flat pricing, and sluggish demand. And in any market with flat pricing, no one sort of goes long, nobody takes big positions. People tend to buy hand to mouth and only when they need it. So sort of toddling along, and since our trip, when we were there, it became quite apparent that certainly all the small processing factories were either closed or finishing now during September. They had no more raw material left and they'd finished up, and they would close their factory, and now they'll prepare the factory for new crop, do any maintenance. So there definitely seemed less product available when we were there. That's not to say that there's sort of hugely reduced quantities, because they process all the goods and then they send it to La Paz, as we know. So there still are remaining quantities from crop 2016. It's just they're heavily committed for the months of September, October, and in order to not oversell, there's no active offers at the moment from Bolivia.
So there seems there's no pressure to sell at the moment.
There's no pressure to sell.
And on the other side of the coin is demand, obviously. I know that in our office, and it seemed like at Origin as well, you tend to cut demand into two different sections, Europe and America. Have you had much demand since coming back? Has it been steady, or is it?
No, I would say in general, unfortunately, the market has moved up price-wise on the back of lack of offers. But overall, because we're now over the summer months, I would say for all products, buyers are a bit more active.
Yeah.
So that's the situation on the market. So we'll keep an eye on it. And
of course, a lot of customers look at the calendar year instead of the crop. So I guess there's a few that are looking for that January, February, March as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the difficulty at the moment. Because of a lack of offers, it's quite hard to envisage what you would tender for next season. Then we also sort of, while we were in Bolivia, we're looking at new crop expectations.
Of course, yeah. So because we're kind of towards the end of this crop, there was some sort of chatter about.
Yeah. So at the moment we're in the stage where next season's pods are on the trees. We had a look and everything seemed to be developing quite well. First the rains have to come, so during end October, November, there'll be a lot of rains, the pods will fall, and in December they'll gear up for new crop collection.
Yeah.
Which is
still a bit of guessing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very early to tell what the situation with new crop will be. What we do know is that there's a lot of finance that needs to go into the internal Bolivian market during the month of December. They need a lot of cash influx to finance new crop collection. Logistically, it's very difficult. They have to rebuild roads, they need to get the boats ready, they need to pre-finance the collectors to go into the jungle, food, diesel, equipment. So logistically each year that's their biggest challenge. And it's very subject to weather conditions and how easy access they can extract the product from the jungle. That's their biggest challenge. So what we do know though is if the carryover is reduced, which at the moment it seems to be reduced, then that does put pressure on new crop opening markets, because we'll most likely end crop 2016 on slightly higher levels, and that's not really a good thing for new crop. Everybody, the general consensus is that we need to end the season with lower pricing so that we open with new crop raw material being cheaper, because when it ends high, then collectors geared up for a higher raw material in shell price, and
it's better when everyone's happy, isn't it?
Everyone's a slightly lower manageable level. So let's see.
And of course, do they mention when they can expect first shipments, really, or I suppose that depends on the flooding as well. Have they got kind of a rough estimation of when they're at least aiming to?
Well, if they finish this season early, then they will gear up. They'll want to get throughput into their factories slightly earlier. But it's first new crop shipments are purely predicated on logistics. And if there's any flooding, how the roads, the access to getting the raw material extracted from the jungle, generally speaking, we would expect in a good year a new crop shipment would be in April, so end May arrival. But as I say, it's still quite early to see how that'll pan out.
So overall, our real reason to go was on the quality front, and it seemed like quite a positive trip, didn't it?
No, for sure. Also, we had a good visit with LabCar, who are the main lab that they do they're an external independent lab, and they sample all the goods and do all the testing, and they are soon to become accredited. There's been investments in new equipment for the labs, and there seems to be more and more people were talking a lot more about training courses for the external quality control people in-house in each factory are going on more courses. So overall, it was quite positive, and definitely some noticeable changes since we were last there.
Absolutely,
which is
I
good.
think Labcar were talking a lot about aflatoxin and how they're going to implement an HPLC machine.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's quite positive just to see how wise everyone was to the complaints that are coming from Europe. Quality.
Yeah. So overall, it was good. It was good to see sort of improvements, and you know, for us, it's important when we go there to focus on the quality, and because, you know, ultimately it has to go hand in hand with every part of the business. It's not just about the price. So you know, because the overall sort of demands are definitely increasing from Europe, and we put a lot of investment and time and effort into how we can increase overall quality of product. So
fantastic.
Good.
So it's a good trip, and if you have any questions,
survived.
we survived. There's a very small plane halfway through that got me a bit nervous, but yeah, great. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to call or email.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.